Welcome to Sierra Club Chronicles. In the tradition of Silkwood and Norma Rae, this episode celebrates Americans who have the courage to take on Dupont, and through the courts hold this chemical giant accountable for the illnesses that are crippling their community.
This area was really nice to grow up in. It was quiet. Living in the country, we didn't have a whole lot to do. So we would go to the bayous and the beaches and swim. We always created our own fun. There was no Walmart. There was no big grocery stores. You did a lot of shrimping and a lot of oystering and made your living from the boats and from the water.
At the time, I guess we were kind of in an economic slump. A lot of people were looking forward to good paying jobs.
When Dupont announced that they were gonna build this plant on DeLisle Road, there was a lot of joy and relief to a lot of people that really needed a good job. Some people had never had a job that paid this much, and I was one of them. I was a single mom, and I would get insurance. I wouldn't have to worry about myself or my son. He was so excited, his mom was gonna be working for Dupont.
The Dupont DeLisle plant is one of the world's largest producers of titanium dioxide, which is basically a whitening agent. Their product is used to make the white M's on M&Ms, and it's used for make the white stuff in the middle of Oreos. It's also used widely in paints. It's used in toothpaste. I saw it in the lemonade that I bought the other day. And it's purely a cosmetic product that has no food value. Its only value is that it makes things look white.
It is one of those products that pretty much lifts the world because of its ability to brighten. We provide over 1,000 jobs. Mississippi and the Gulf Coast I found to be just an amazing place for people who are so hardworking, so dedicated.
I started at the DeLisle plant in 1979. I was probably 20 years old. From one end of that plant to the other, there's no place in the plant that I haven't worked. It wasn't very long after startup that, people were coming down with these off-the-wall, unheard-of cancers and dying, I saw healthy men out there, big, healthy men, that all of a sudden they've got this rare form of cancer of the brain or a rare form of cancer of the blood, and the next thing you know, they're dead.
I was still working the shift work when I noticed that my feet would just hurt me so bad. Over the months, I just started really, really limping. When my doctor told me you're going to be in a wheelchair, I tried not to even think about it. It was so painful. I just kept struggling and trying to do my job. I tried to be the best employee I could. I knew my job. I never got a negative. The whole time I was out there, I never got a bad performance review. Over the years, my muscles have gotten gradually weaker. I've just learned to readjust and readapt. Other people from the plant started having a lot of health problems, and we started comparing our stories.
My family lives 4 miles from the plant. My father's had breast cancer. My mother had McArdle's syndrome. She's passed away. My closest younger sister died of cancer. Myself, I've suffered through kidney failure and dialysis and a transplant. So it didn't take a doctor or a scientist to figure it out. Hey, these guys are all We're all working here, so, you know, it's got to be something here. In 2 generations, the only thing changed is there's a chemical plant built down there. It's not hard to make a connection if you live here and you watch it going on and you see it.
Well, the most dangerous form of the chemical dioxin has been found at the Dupont DeLisle plant in DeLisle. Dupont officials confirmed that the compound TCDD, which is associated with Agent Orange, was discovered during tests at the plant.
The kind of pollution that's coming from Dupont DeLisle is in all different spectrums. Dioxin is one of the biggest byproducts of producing titanium dioxide at Dupont DeLisle plant. They have a permit to release something like 2 million gallons of processed wastewater per day into the Bay of St. Louis.
Manufacturing plants that have large amount of waste in the process always locate near bodies of water, because the bodies of water are where they dump a lot of their waste, and then it's moved out of their area.
The Dupont facility, we know, has released heavy metal contaminants as well as dioxin and dioxin-like materials into Bay St. Louis. The consequences of the dioxins are liver damage, nerve damage. It may be cancer.
5 or 6 years ago, I started getting calls from people with concerns about their health and the amount of illness that was being seen in this DeLisle community. Currently, there are about close to 2,000 people in the community or former workers who file a lawsuit against Dupont DeLisle alleging that they have had health effects from the pollution from that plant.
If you got any conversations, take them outside the courtroom. If you're going to remain in here, you remain just like you are now, because court is in session.
The first case involves a local fisherman named Glenn Strong. He ate very large quantities of oysters and other seafood from the Bay of St. Louis that was tainted with the dioxin and other poisons from the Dupont chemical plant.
This further testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please have a seat.
Would you state your name, please?
Glenn Strong.
Are you married?
Yes, sir.
What's your wife's name?
Connie. I retired in January of '99.
And what was the reason for that retirement?
Because I was diagnosed with cancer in '98. For 10 days they did tests on me. Bone scans and bone marrow tests and x-rays. They told me that I had tumors all up and down my vertebrae, my back. If I wanted to live any length of time, I'd have to go through a bone marrow transplant. I had no other choice. So he did it.
Who did you find to be the donor?
My brother.
What's your brother's name?
Harold.
Now, could we take a break for a moment?
Yes.
The trial has begun with DuPont, some 2,000 lawsuits filed. And I'm going to tell you, folks, the entire nation's watching this. We were contacted by Terry Gooding during yesterday's show, toward the end of the show, and he indicated that he was the Chief Public Affairs Officer at Dupont DeLisle chemical plant. And you wanted to chat, and you suggested that there was another side to this whole situation.
There has been no evidence that has proven that the Dupont DeLisle operations have caused any health effect on anyone.
Well, Terry, but still, with all that said, did you know, or had you feel that there were traces of dioxin there at DuPont before you came to work there?
Yes, I did. In fact, I'm well aware that there is dioxin that's generated at the plant. But Let me ask you a question. Did you know if you drive a vehicle that you generate dioxins whenever you get in your vehicle and drive your car down the street? Dioxin is generated when we go out and barbecue in our backyards, when we get in our vehicles, when we get in our boats.
Recently, with the litigation starting and such, they're running their public relations thing, and they have some guy from out there on the plant on the local news discussing the dioxins, and he tries to make them seem insignificant, but it's not insignificant if it affects you personally.
Dr. Platt, I would like to have you answer this question. Are you aware of anything more carcinogenic than dioxins?
No. The dioxin is the Darth Vader of toxic chemicals, and these other ones are more like the stormtroopers. They may not be as nasty as Darth Vader, but they still can kill you. In terms of significance of dioxin, industrial production is by far the leading cause and the leading source. It's the elephant, so to speak, of the problem. And these other cigarette smoke, dioxin produced in cigarette smoke or dioxin produced from burning gasoline in cars are like ants in comparison to the big source.
You are not a medical doctor, are you?
Correct.
You don't treat patients.
No.
You don't evaluate patients.
No.
And you're not qualified to diagnose illnesses in a patient, are you?
Correct.
Now, we already talked about how cigarette smoke contains dioxins, but you don't have an opinion as to how much Mr. Strong's smoking contributed to his dioxin levels, do you?
No.
No further questions, thank you.
At first, I trusted them. They seemed like a giant family business, and they were easy to trust. Dupont says that they're one of the safest companies in the world to work for. And I worked there almost 13 years, and there's no doubt they are a safe company to work for when you know what you're dealing with. Unfortunately, they didn't tell us everything. They're a chemical company. They know what happens when there's a chemical reaction goes on. They know all the little intricate details about it. When I was there was never any talk about dioxins, and we thought we knew everything, that they were being upfront with us.
You swear the testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. I want you to tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how high the dioxin levels were in DuPont's titanium dioxide process.
It is my opinion that the...
We reject this opinion. He's irrespective. Just tell what you know about what's your conversation.
What I know is that the plant sites, they all produced massive amounts of toxic dioxin and PCBs.
I want you to succinctly tell the jurors how DuPont would treat the information about dioxins that it had. Succinctly.
Succinctly? When they found massive amounts of dioxin, they delayed in telling the employees about it. They treated it as if it was minimal to the employees, and they treated it as minimal to anybody outside the company.
I had started passing blood in my urine. My kidneys weren't able to drain into my bladder correctly, and it eventually ruined my kidneys. I spent 5 years on dialysis. I could have been out there working and enriching in my life where I was sitting in a chair hooked to a machine. I still have some function in one kidney, and I received a kidney transplant it's 3 months ago. I probably take 12 different types of medication. The prescription costs are just unbelievable. This jewel and this jewel, that's about $1,000 a piece each month. That's one of the main struggles right now, paying off the medicines, and a lot of the medicines I have to live. So what keeps me going?
All right, Ms. Nichols, could you tell the jury how you're currently employed?
Yes, I am the DuPont plant manager for DuPont DeLisle.
Let's talk a little bit about the work that the plant does with the regulators, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. What is the interaction with the regulators?
We've always been very open, very transparent. I know I am. I don't have anything to hide. I'm going to do what's right, whether, someone's coming through the gates looking at it or not. EPA and MDEQ visit our site whenever they so choose to do it, unannounced at times, and have repeatedly said that they do not see us causing any human health concerns in the community, either through air, land, or water.
DuPont DeLisle is a poster child for the fact that self-regulation and self-monitoring doesn't work. The government relies on industry to tell it when it's doing anything wrong.
DuPont does not have the state doing anything more than looking at their reports. No confirmation tests by anybody.
EPA and the state of Mississippi have been absent without leave in terms of fully regulating DuPont. The state of Mississippi, which is not as powerful as DuPont, is not going to force them to play by the rules.
It's shocking to find over and over again that our regulatory agencies are not protecting people, they're protecting industry profits. Their primary agenda is to be, quote, business friendly. Their agenda is to give permits to pollute so people like DuPont DeLisle can stand up there and say, we are meeting all our state and federal environmental laws.
The people who live near these plants that are being deregulated are paying the price for deregulation because they have a higher risk of air contamination, water contamination, dust contamination in their homes and where they work.
Okay, Connie, this is it. Tell them your name.
Connie Strong.
Have you ever done this before?
Never.
Okay. Are you scared?
Petrified.
Okay. I want you to tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how you met your husband.
I met Glenn when I was 15 years old, and he had a motorcycle. And he asked me if I'd go for a ride, so I said, yes, I will. And he took me real fast, and I was just petrified. And I told him I'll never get on that motorcycle again. And I meant it. He bought a motorcycle after we were married, and we started riding every day, down the beach to the bayou. That was our time to be together and to just relax.
When he came home to you and said, call the doctor, my back's hurting me. Have you all ever gotten on a motorcycle together and rode again?
No. Every single night for 7 years, I wake up 2 and 3 times a night and go in that bedroom to make sure he's still breathing. And that's been going on for 7 years. When I get up in the morning, first thing I do is go in that bedroom, make sure he's breathing. And I'll probably do it to the end.
Connie, those are all the questions I have for you.
The day I quit that plant, I turned around and I said, if I ever find out what's wrong with me is because of this plant, heaven can only help them. But I didn't pursue it. Who was I, this little country girl, a mile and a half from here to fight DuPont? Who was I? DuPont is asking for new permits to expand their production. I feel that if they expand, then there's going to be more pollution released to the air. The people from the community and from the Sierra Club are going to this hearing tonight to express our thoughts and our concerns about DuPont expanding.
State law requires that when an industry's going after a new permit, that public input be taken. That means that a public hearing will be held. This is the problem that we come up again and again in this community, that when we have meetings, people are sick or they're visiting people in the hospital, I was just talking to this gentleman here who told me that, his father was at the last hearing and he died since the last hearing.
Yes, he did.
Of one of those rare cancers.
Those areas around here somewhere.
Since there's so much cancer in our community, all of a sudden they're showing up at churches. They're showing up at our functions to try to present themselves, hey, I am a good guy, look at me, I'm here. But the people that really know that are sick, it's almost like a joke. What are they doing showing up here?
Hey, Becky, how are you doing? Is that Becky behind the camera? Hey, how are you doing?
What are they trucks hauling in? The majority of the people who work at the Dupont DeLisle plant are like me. They're born and raised in this area. And we are proud to work for Dupont. And I'm here to tell you I don't have anything wrong with me.
We have the opportunity to say no to DuPont. Do not give them any more reasons to make more pollution than what they're already making. The facts are people are dying every day from this. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a fatalistic attitude knowing that the permit will be approved. No matter what you say, they're going to be allowed to expand.
When we first started this case, I asked you to try to stay focused on what the case is about. And what the case is about is whether DuPont caused Mr. Strong's illness. The case is not about whether you believe DuPont is a good company or a bad company. We're going to run through this quickly because I know by now you know this, that there are other sources of dioxin. You heard Mr. Strong yesterday say that his family barbecued once a week for many, many, many years. And barbecuing in the backyard is one of the things that produces dioxin. We know that Mr. Strong was a smoker and that his wife is a smoker, and that between the two of them, they've smoked literally about 500,000 cigarettes over the past 30 years. We heard from their experts that there's this elephant in the room. Well, there is an elephant in the room, and it's Mr. Strong's cigarette smoke. With all due respect to Mr. and Mrs. Strong, if you conclude that the evidence shows DuPont did not make this man sick, then you need to award him no money.
By the grace of God, Mr. Strong lived to this point. And you know, if he hadn't been given the opportunity to make it this far, you would have never heard the evidence about what's happening in DeLisle. All the experts who have come in this case have agreed that dioxins are carcinogenic. There's a lot of dioxins in that bay, a lot more than there should be. Now, where did they come from? Because you got a lot of evidence that they did come from DuPont. You could stack cigarettes to the sky and you wouldn't get as much dioxin as this thing puts out in a day. That's the elephant in the room. They have spent not a penny to find out what's going on in DeLisle. They won't take their employees' blood, don't want to know. Won't take any air stack samples, don't want to know. Won't test oysters, don't want to know. Won't test house dust, don't want to know. This is the second largest chemical company in the world. We look forward to your verdict.
DuPont will continue to be allowed to pollute as much as it wants to, basically. And the only thing that can change that is these lawsuits that these plaintiffs have filed against the company.
Members of the jury, do you have something for the court? We do. You have a verdict? Yes. You pass it up here, let me see. All right. You want to stand and read it for the court, please?
We, the jury, find for the plaintiff, Lynn Strong, in excess of damages, $14 million. Court will accept that as a legitimate verdict in this case, and it'll be registered into the court record as the same.
If enough of these plaintiffs win their cases, it's just not going to be economical for DuPont to continue polluting this community. And it's unfortunate that you have to rest all your hope on a plaintiff lawyer when actually the government should be doing its job.
DuPont is a multinational corporation, and they will survive this. Money will not replace lives lost due to pollutants in this community.
The health problems that I personally have had, I definitely hold DuPont responsible. My family's health problems, I definitely think that DuPont is responsible. Makes me very mad.
Before this, we had no voice. Who were we? These dumb Southerners. I've learned over the years to speak up. DuPont will know where we stand. DuPont will know that we have a voice.
Despite this first court victory, the hundreds of ill residents and workers in DeLisle face an uphill battle. For updates on this story and information about what you can do to protect your community from toxic pollution, please visit us at sierraclubtv.org.
Funding provided by the Ford Foundation, with additional support from the Sierra Club Foundation.